Alright everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault, and I think I finally have cracked the code. I think I have found the modern audience. Let's cue up the music and we'll get right into it. Alright, so on that Park Place, and I will link to the story as I always do, anonymous game developer admits, "I kinda hate gamers. Calls Asmongold viewers bigots." Yikes. So an alleged game developer posted anonymously to the game dev subreddit admitting that he hates gamers and that members of Asmongold subreddits are bigots. Now, you always suspect that these guys really don't like the people they're making games for, and I don't get this. I really don't get this. If you're that unhappy, if you don't want to bring joy to the people that you're designing things for, why are you in that business in the first place? Why aren't you doing something else? You know, I mean, if you don't like the outdoors, why are you working at, why are you doing landscaping? You know, if you don't want to work inside, why are you doing accounting? I just don't understand it. But anyway, the Reddit user, Likely Sprite, which sounds like a, either a little fairy boy or a female, who claims he works on a racing... Okay, so he works on a racing game, titled his post in the subreddit, "Am I allowed to say this? I kinda hate gamers." He went on to explain, "I'm a professional..." Oh, you're lying right there. I'm a game designer, and I'm worried that I'm starting to hate gamers. Watching the gaming events on YouTube last month with that chat on was an extremely disheartening experience. Every time a character that wasn't a cishet white male appeared on screen, the chats would fill with messages calling the game woke or complaining about DEI. Every game that wasn't a shooter or a hyper-casual competitive online garnered these and boring comments. Let me explain something to you, Mr. Professional or Ms. or whatever the hell you are, game designer. I guess Mr. First off, if you're using terms like a cishet white man, to me right there, that's a red flag. You probably have pronouns in your profile. You probably have weird multicolored hair, wear thick fat glasses, and if you're a guy, you have a neck beard. If you're a girl, you're probably 250 pounds. I mean, I could go on and on and on. But as far as being a professional game designer, you're not a professional. A professional would work in the field and just do his or her job and STFU about this kind of stuff, right? If you're that soft and that weak that you're getting upset about chat messages that aren't even related to you, they're not even related to you, so they're calling a game woke or complaining about DEI. Well, let me explain something to you. Those are completely 100% valid complaints to have with games these days. Every single day there's another reveal of another garbage game coming out that's got Sweet Baby Inc. influence on it. It's got Black Girl Gamers or whatever these other stupid ass companies are, poisoning the well, destroying these games and making them suck. Okay? So people complaining about that, they have every right to. They are gamers. They're the ones who pay money for games. Nobody wants to pay $70, get a game, and then get blindsided by some weird agenda. Like for instance in Pacific Drive, it wasn't a $70 game, it was a AA game or whatever. Great game, a lot of fun and all that, and then halfway through the game, all of a sudden I'm hit with a bunch of pride flags in a game that takes place in the 1990s. I'm like, what is this? And a Black Lives Matter flag. Was there an American flag? No, there wasn't an American flag. There was no other flags. Just a whole bunch of these gay flags and then a Black Lives Matter flag in there. There were other stickers, but that was just like one whole package. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It's absolutely ridiculous. Threw me right out of the game. In fact, from that point on, and then later on, 2 of the 3 characters that are in the game turn out to be gay, and I just felt like, it really took me out of the game, and I never finished the game. And I enjoyed the hell out of that game up until that point. And I was like, you know what, it's aggravating. You get tired of it all the time. Once in a while, all right, normal representation, cool, whatever. I have no problem with that. But this is just this constant thing. And to have so much gayness jammed into one small little game like that, it's just beyond the pale. Anyway, let's continue on. So then this whatever they are, and then I checked Twitter, and it's just people complaining that the MGS3 remake is not yellow enough. People telling me there are right ways and wrong ways to beat LC Ring. I'm guessing they're saying Elden Ring there. And people hating on the new Dragon Age because the trailer doesn't match the tone they imagined for it. Well, let me tell you, that new Dragon Age looks like a steaming pile of crap, but we'll move on. He then added, I've seen people implying that the MC in Fable, main character, trailers is ugly because it's a self-insert of some random level designer working at Playground who they have deemed not effable enough. No, it's a trans person from the looks of it, and it looked exactly like that clown, and it was disgusting. I mean, who wants to play a character that looks like that? Nobody wants to play trans characters, or women that look like men. People don't want that, unless they are trans. And if it doesn't bother you, and if you're like, well, it's just a thing, you know, no big deal, you can jerk off to something else. No, that's not it, guys. Nobody's jerking off to video games. And if you are, well, God bless you, man. You must be 12 years old. But, yeah, that's absolutely a ridiculous argument. It just tries to pivot away from the real problem here, which is the infestation of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in video games, and how it is slowly destroying the industry as more and more, it's found in more and more games day after day. Silly little things like instead of choosing a character creator and saying I want to be a male or a female, now you're body type A and body type B. Little insidious things like that are the beginning, and then it just gets worse from there. You know, being able to have a female character but add a penis to it. Why is there even a penis in the freaking game? And you know, and why can you have a female character with a male voice? It's absolutely ridiculous. It's stupid, and it's just pandering to the smallest group of people out there. And they're never going to be happy anyway, because they're not happy with themselves, so they're not going to be able to be happy with any character they create. You know, they're miserable. They don't even know who they are. So, you know what? Why try to make them happy? They are the most unhappy group of people in the world. Suicide rate is through the roof for them. You know, they're freaking shooting up everything they can, it seems. It's absolutely ridiculous and horrifying. Anyway, when one user pushed back on Likely Sprite, and let's go ahead and read through this whole thing. So, Mega Hashes, anyone who unironically uses sysshet to complain about customers is not developing a game that would be commercially successful. The problem isn't dislike of non-male, non-white characters. The problem is shoehorning, bandwagoning, and your own virtue signaling. Alien Isolation was a fun game with a female lead and no combat. Tomb Raider was one of the most commercially successful game franchises ever, and it was female-led. The Fall is female-led. Mild combat and extremely engaging. Going all the way back to the 80s, Miss Pac-Man. I remember Miss Pac-Man. She was in every single Pizza Hut around the country. But Miss Pac-Man was a fun game with a female lead and no combat. You could find the arcades all over once upon a time. You could build the biggest tittied fan service avatar that Unity can render, and I bet your game will still fail simply because your attitude is all wrong. Your problem is you don't want to just make a fun game, you want to make a game that pushes your politics, and then you demand that people like it. People don't find fun. People don't find that fun at all, and that's why you're mad. And then this schmuck, of course, just everything just goes right over their head, and I go, thanks for proving my point, say shit gamer. So this is why I hate these people. And I don't use that term lightly, and I don't like using that term, but I hate this kind of attitude, this little superiority complex. And I'll see it in my comments sometimes. I don't waste my time talking to these assholes beyond the first couple engagements, and then I'm like, oh, now here we go. They're just going to sit there with their little superiority attitude, and they're going to be a fucking jackass. And, you know, I'm done talking to you. Yeah, you'll tell them something, and they'll just completely ignore it and go off on a tangent on something else, or they'll try to pivot away, or they'll try to do a whataboutism on you, or whatever. They won't talk about the actual point that you're trying to make. Instead, they're going to just kind of go around it or whatever and think they're smart in doing that, when it just proves the point that they're horrible. They have no argument, you know? And my favorites are the ones that insult me directly, because that's funny. You know, I don't care. You can't insult me. You're some asshole on the other end of the internet. You know, that's mad because I made a video and it's made you mad enough that you're going to come watch my video, leave a dislike on it, and make a nasty comment about me. I win. Anyway, let's go on. Likely Sprite would also reveal the entire purpose of the post. I made this post event. Okay, let's read the whole thing. XTMT replies, you're being really bad faith here, friend. It sounds like you just made this post to rage bait or just wanted to find reassurance for your, gamers, am I right, attitude. Game designers often tend to have a holier-than-thou attitude, and they're somehow above the masses and understand the art of games better, when most of the time they're just doing mundane skill shit like tweaking the parameters of a racing game. Wow. Listening to what your audience has to say is one of the most important skills a game designer needs. If you're being intentionally obtuse and trying to paint in broad strokes, then you're already failing that. And then Likely Sprite comes back. I made this post event. People are free to comment whatever they want. My work is to tweak numbers on an Excel sheet and then implement and fine-tune the changes in the game engine. I have zero use for gamers' thoughts on race and gender. And let's see. Well, let's go on to the replies there. Reguar, I guess. I'm only telling you the reason why gamers behave like they behave. Diversity is not bad if done properly in a good game. It should never be a main focus of the creators and more like a byproduct. And they're right. Nobody cried that there are black people in BG3 except some really weird, loud minorities. Nobody gave a F about homosexual relationships there. Game was good. At the same time, marketing and developers didn't focus on forced diversity. So, yeah, they didn't focus on that forced diversity and all that. But I will tell you, maybe I'm part of that weird, loud minority, but it got kind of tiring to see all the, the homosexuality in that game. I'll be honest with you. As good of a game as it might have been and all that, that threw me off, and I ended up quitting that game. And it's just, I'm just so over all of that anytime it pops up now, it like ruins an experience for me. It wouldn't be so bad like back in the day. You had a movie and it's like, oh, there's the gay character, whatever. Okay, no big deal. But now it's like every time it's like, oh, there's the gay, whatever. It's absolutely crazy. But anyway, he goes on. I think instead of helping me, you should help yourself, to be honest. Based on your other comments and original post, you are extremely hyper-focused on gender politics, insufferable, ignorant about real life and other viewpoints, and think too high about yourself. Unless it's all trolling, then I would call it a nice 6 out of 10 bait. Maybe you're just not cut out to be a game developer if your ego's so fragile. If you hate your customers, just change your job. This advice is applicable to every other type of job, not game developer exclusive. And they write back, you've not addressed my points. I'm not hyper-focused on gender politics. I just happen to be trans. Should I apologize for existing? Oh boy, victim card slapped on the table right there. I just happen to be trans. Should I apologize for existing? Dude, fuck you. I am so tired of that attitude. Trans people have got to be the weakest people that have ever existed throughout the history of humanity. They just want to be victimized so bad. You never even had to mention that. It's irrelevant at this point. You're an asshole. Doesn't matter if you're trans, doesn't matter if you're straight, doesn't matter if you're gay, doesn't matter what you are. You're just an asshole. And you should apologize for being an asshole, not for existing. But moving on, we have another little communication here. Why do game devs keep digging their graves like this? Your post has already been circulated online and will be used as additional ammunition, and likely sprites that circulated online, and it's just a cross post to an Asmongold subreddit, so bigots can circle jerk about it. Zero accountability, zero self-awareness. What a loser. I hope this person just snaps and leaves the industry completely, because they don't need to be here. They're a big part of the problem. And the fact that there are so many people like this in the industry, they're all part of the problem. Every time I hear about layoffs and studios closing down, I feel bad for the people. I really honestly do, because it's a shitty thing to have happen, especially the way the US is right now and our economy and all that. Losing your job is not a good thing. And these guys, they're not making money hand over fist. Not guys that are working Excel spreadsheets like this clown, tweaking numbers and all that. No, they're not making much money. So he loses a job, he's in trouble. But you know what? Guys like that deserve to lose their job. They do. They deserve it. And, they deserve to leave the industry completely and go work on something else. Go tweak spreadsheets for, I don't know, anything else. Go work for a accountant or something like that and do some of their heavy lifting there. Well, here's Grums' response to this. Oh boy, you hate gamers because you're obviously political and insist that everyone accept and love your overt political messaging in games. You want compliance and gamers aren't giving it to you. And he's right. He's right. Absolutely right. Edward Fezer, an associate professor of philosophy at Pasadena County College, explains, sexual pleasure is like the pleasure of alcohol use in being perfectly innocent in itself, but also very easy to abuse. Hence, even in someone with otherwise normal sexual desires, a preoccupation with matters of sex has a tendency to cause him to act foolishly in various ways, to exaggerate the importance of it, to pursue it in ways that are detrimental to his own well-being, and that of the people who depend on him to construct rationalizations for such foolish pursuit, and so forth. He adds, in someone with abnormal sexual desires, the effect is even worse. And that's why these people are so crazy, I think. That's why when you see a pride parade, it's so full of debauchery and all that. You're almost waiting for the meteor to come down and land on that parade because these people are so vile. But for what determines the good use of human faculty in the end or purpose toward which is directed by nature. Hence, a healthy moral psychology requires a firm, intuitive grasp of what is natural and what is contrary to nature's purposes. Repeatedly taking pleasure in activity that is directly contrary to nature's ends dulls the intellect's perception of nature to the point that the very idea that some things are contrary to the natural order loses its hold upon the mind. The intellect thereby loses its grip on moral reality. So what they're saying here is, you know, that's why these people always are saying about normalize this, normalize that. No, you don't want to normalize these things. You don't want to normalize things that aren't normal. Okay? You know, being trans is not normal. Being gay is not normal. It's not part of the normal order of things. It's not what helped us as a race, humans, to progress and evolve. You know, every time somebody goes down that path, they create an evolutionary dead end that dies off. You know what I mean? It's just, you're done. Everybody up until you progress the species, you know, of humanity, and then all of a sudden you're an evolutionary dead end. So I don't know why that's celebrated so much. But anyway, so what do you guys think of this? It's kind of crazy, and I know this has got to be widespread throughout the industry because you always see developers and they just can't help themselves, right? They just can't help. You push back against a game, you make some snarky comment online, and then they're on there calling you a man baby or something else, and they're telling you to, you know, don't buy their game and all that. So you don't buy their game, and then 6 months later when it releases, they're crying that nobody bought their game, and it's just this vicious cycle. So leave the industry, whoever you are, random game developer. Piss off, go somewhere else, do something else, and the world will be a better place with you gone from this industry. Anyway, I'm Captain Beefy with the Game Vault. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, peace.